we're going to explain how to save new variables inside a loop. This is a common programming task, and understanding how to do it effectively is crucial. Let's explore different methods, focusing on clarity and efficiency. 1. Using a list. The simplest and often most efficient way to store multiple variables generated within a loop is to use a list. Instead of creating individual variables like variable, variable, variable through and so on, you append each new value to a list. For example, if you're looping through numbers and calculating their squares, you could create an empty list before the loop starts. Inside the loop, calculate the square of each number and use the append method to add it to the list. After the loop completes, you'll have a list containing all the calculated squares. This approach avoids the messy and inefficient practice of creating many individual variables with names generated dynamically. 2. Using a dictionary. If you need to associate each new variable with a specific key or identifier, a dictionary is the preferred choice. Let's say you're processing data from a file where each line has an ID and a value. You could use a dictionary where the IDs are the keys, and the values are the corresponding data. In the loop, for each line read from the file, you'd add a new key-value pair to your dictionary. This way, you can easily access the value associated with any ID later in your program. Dictionaries provide a structured and efficient way to manage a collection of data pairs. 3. Appending to existing data structures. If you already have a data structure, such as a list or dictionary, you don't need to create a new one within the loop. Simply modify the existing structure by adding new elements or updating values. For instance, if you're working with a list of objects, you can add new objects to the list within the loop. Similarly, you can update values in your dictionary. This avoids the unnecessary overhead of creating new structures repeatedly. 4. Avoiding variable name generation. A common mistake is trying to dynamically generate variable names within a loop, such as var1, var2, var3, etc. This is generally bad practice. The better approach is to always use lists or dictionaries, as mentioned above. Dynamically creating variables makes your code harder to read, maintain, and debug. Your code becomes less organized and harder to follow. 5. Example, list. Let's say we want to store the squares of numbers from 1 to 5. We'd initialize an empty list, squares equals to. Then, inside a loop, we'd calculate each square and append it, squares appended to. After the loop, squares would contain 1, 4, 9, 16, 25. 6. Example, dictionary. Imagine we have a list of names and ages. Alice, 30, Bob, 25, Charlie, 35. We create an empty dictionary. People equals to. Inside the loop, we'd iterate through the list and add each person's name as a key and their age as a value to the dictionary. After the loop, we could access each age using the name as the key, like people Alice to retrieve 30. In essence, using lists and dictionaries within loops is the most efficient and organized approach for managing multiple variables generated iteratively. Avoid the temptation to create numerous individually named variables. Instead, utilize these powerful data structures for cleaner, more manageable